ready to get serious about building content sites and building a profitable business online? Welcome to the Niche Website Builders Podcast. We bring you the latest field-tested tips, tricks, and strategies for building a profitable online asset. We interview industry experts, share customer success stories, and reveal our own experiences working on hundreds of sites to inspire and motivate you to make something happen. Let's do this.
Hi, and welcome to this week's episode of the Niche Website Builder Podcast. This week I've got an awesome guest. You probably know him if you've been in the space at all. His name is Mushfiq. Mushfiq's been buying and selling sites online since 2008, so it's a long time. He's got a background in electrical engineering, and he's worked with various clean energy companies. And his background in electrical engineering and engineering in general means he's really good at understanding technical projects, taking things apart, understanding how they work, which has made him basically really successful in the world of website flipping. He's recently left his career with the startup world to focus full-time on lots of different projects that we talk about today, but the main one being the website flip, which is an awesome community, and we'll put some links for it below. Some of the topics we covered today are around buying and flipping websites. We talk about age domains, how to use them, and then we also talk about the future of our industry. So I really enjoyed today's chat with Mushfiq, and I hope you will too. And I hope you guys learned some awesome stuff too. So let's get into it.
This episode is brought to you by Niche Website Builders, an agency dedicated to helping people just like you build profitable content sites. Niche Website Builders are the hands-off content site marketing agency you always wished existed. It's run by content site marketers for content site marketers, and they help both investors and individuals alike build profitable online properties. They provide a fully outsourced approach to content creation, link building, and done-for-you website builds, the same approach they use on their own six-figure portfolios. For example, their content packages come with a proprietary keyword research process, are written by in-house native English speakers, formatted using templates proven to convert, and uploaded to WordPress with affiliate links added so that all you need to do is hit the publish button. Check them out at nichewebsite.builders/show. That's nichewebsite.builders/show, and fill out the form to get coupon codes for 10% more content or a 10% discount on links with your first order sent right to your inbox.
Hey Mushfiq, welcome to the show. How's things?
Thanks, Adam. Thanks for having me. Great. How are you?
I'm very good, thank you. We've literally just had this conversation once before, and then we had some technical issues, so it feels a bit strange going through the same thing. But yeah, things are great. Now, literally, if you've been in the website flipping space or the website community space for like any length of time, I'm sure most people would have come across you because you're doing great things and big things in space. But for people who are maybe not familiar with you, do you want to just give us a little 2-minute intro to who you are, your background, and how you got started in the space?
Sure, yeah. I started in 2008. I was a sophomore in college here in the States. And so I just needed some side passive income, essentially, to pay off my tuition. And so I got into how to make money online, and blogs came about. And so I started my first blog on Blogspot, Google's Blogspot, and that started to make money. Then I learned that you can put a site on your own domain using WordPress back in the day, and so I did that. And luckily, the second site I would say kind of started in the niche, worked out well, and I was able to sell that in 2010 for about $25,000. And that whole process, I had no idea that you could buy and sell sites. So that got me started in that, industry, essentially getting acquainted with Flippa, buying and selling sites since then, about, I think, 180, 85-ish now, website flips. And I blog about it and talk about it because I really enjoy selling sites. So.
That's incredible how many sites you flip. But just going back to that first site, or the second site, the one that wasn't on Blogspot, how did you have any prior experience of being in the digital marketing world, or like how did you? It takes people a long time to normally figure that out, and they usually don't have that success on site number two.
Yeah, I think I would say I kind of got lucky. So I have an engineering background, so I like to just dissect things and understand it. So I read everything out there. Back then I used to follow like Smart Passive Income, Niche Pursuits, I think was maybe around then. A lot of Black Hat World forums. So, I don't do Black Hat stuff now, but honestly, that type of stuff they do and kind of dissect things and really take advantage. And that kind of mindset is, inbuilt in me. So I really can understand very difficult things easily. So I think that helped me. And, I had a testing ground and I didn't have anything to lose. I didn't need, obviously the money is great, but I didn't really need it to survive. So it was a good environment for me to try different things.
Yeah, for sure. Okay. Was that your first instance of making money online, or had you tried other things prior?
No, okay, I would say probably my second, my major success. I used to do those weird things where, it was like surveys essentially back in the day where, you can fill out surveys and make money, and it was pretty lucrative back then. Nowadays, not so much. So that was my first, and then I realized that's not really that fun, and so then blogs came about.
Okay, nice. And then, so you built that site from scratch, but you don't normally do that now. So are you still building sites, or are you mainly just buying them and flipping them, or buying them and holding them now? Would you still build from scratch?
Not purely from scratch. So if I build, like the websiteflip.com is from scratch, and I might do some very big projects from scratch. However, after I get started from scratch, I'm always on the lookout for acquisitions that I can merge to just expedite the process. So in reality, I could start from scratch, but within a month I might find something that's interesting and then just merge the two. So yeah, it could be like semi both ways.
Yeah, I think we'll come on to that a little bit later on, because you've been on an acquisition spree the last couple of months, right? Okay, awesome. So what do you think has been, and these are just kind of quick fire questions before we get into the meat of it, but what do you think has been your biggest success to date then, since you started all those 11, 12 years ago?
Yeah, a lot of little successes in the 5 figure range, so under 100,000, a lot of those. Probably 100 of my transactions are in that range. The remaining maybe 30 or 40 are in the 4-figure range, and then a good handful in the 6-figure range. I think the one that I own right now, I sold it once. So I sold it for 194,000 and I retained 25% ownership. And now this last month it hit 15,000 in profit, and I sold it at a 6,000 average. So now it's at a 15,000 average. So whatever that is times a 40x, that's probably my most successful one. The challenge here is that, a lot of people have 7-figure sites valuations. I just don't hold sites long enough to even get to that stage. I'm always out within a year. Honestly, my average hold time is like 8 months. So I can't even say that I've had like a 7-figure site, because I pretty much sell when at 8 months to 12-month period, which if I'm lucky, that's like a couple 100,000, right?
Is it due to risk that you don't want to hold sites into past that point, or?
No, I think Google, is risky in a way, but I think if you do things right, building a brand, a good backlinks, really taking care of it like it's your baby, I think Google is much more fair these days than it was in the past, because you could do a lot of shady stuff in the past, PBNs and rank above really good sites. Nowadays, that's not really possible. So if you take care of your site, I think you're good. You hold long term. My thing is it's a personal choice. I get bored in a single site. And I used to own about 18 sites in 2016-17 that I bought. And, you know, I had a different career back then, and that took up most of my time, and I just let these sit on a server, and they were giving me cash flow, but I just didn't feel interested to work on them. And I would see month over month that downtrend because I didn't put any content, nor did I even log in. And so I sold them all and realized that that's not my personality. My personality is more buy something, get that easy win, exponential growth, hold it until the last 6-month average makes sense for an exit that I'm happy with, and then sell and move on. It's not that I'm selling bad sites. People who buy my sites, they're very happy. Some of the sites have continued to grow. It's just that it's my personality.
No, 100% agree. I'm very similar to you. I like the thrill of, it's almost the thrill of finding a site which has opportunity and then implementing and then selling it. Even though the cash at the end is nice, it's not the primary driver. It's more of the challenge. And then Mark then is the opposite. He's not really sold any sites. He sold one site this year. And he's just holding for the long term, which is another strategy, I guess.
Nothing wrong with that. There's just different ways to do it. But it's good that our industry has options, right? That's important.
Yeah, definitely. What's been your so that was your biggest success. What's been your biggest failure and well, not failure, but your biggest learning, I guess? Where to start, is it?
Yeah, I mean, okay, before I share that, I mean, so I look for sites that are under optimized, right, on distressed assets, let's say. Mm-hmm. So they either could have they could be under monetized, or you know, they have a lot of traffic and they don't, you know, monetize properly, or they have let's say opportunities for more keywords to be added or something like that, or I'm buying it at a very low multiple, let's say all those aspects. So when I buy, so I'm a very big proponent of buying smart. Okay, you can sell it later for whatever, but you just buy smart, don't overpay, and find those opportunities. So what I'm getting at is that I'm buying smart, and therefore, even if a Google update happens, which I can give you an example of that, what happened there, I'm still recouping my money at a very good return on investment, right? So let's say I buy a site at 30x, right? 35x, let's say, and then Google hits it, but I have all these easy wins that I've already implemented. So month one, I've already doubled my revenue, and even if Google halved my traffic, I still have, I've still doubled my revenue, therefore it's equivalent. So what I'm trying to get at is that when I buy smart, so even if I get impacted by external factors, I still have a good enough ROI. I can exit at whatever I bought it at the worst case, or, luckily higher. So, with that said, that's what when I'm saying that, because in the last maybe 5 years, I haven't had a real big failure where I've gotten hit by a Google update to zero traffic or anything like that. It just hasn't happened. In the past, though, I did buy sites with PBN links, and one of them was in the archery niche, like bows. And that person had a 250 site PBN, and all of it got hit. And he sold a lot of sites through various brokerages. I bought one, and that site went to zero overnight. So since then, I just don't get into PBNs or anything like that. But that was that's the only real failure that I can really remember.
Wow, yeah, that's not great, is it? Was there any recourse for that kind of, or it's just buyer beware, right?
Yeah, buyer beware. Here's the disavow file. Good luck. And there's just nothing, And that's why I do see a lot of high-end brokerages, point out today that there's PBN links. But a buyer, honestly, if it's us, we understand it, but a non-savvy buyer has no idea. So it's I don't like that practice, but it is what it is.
Yeah, no, you've got a great service for this. I send quite a few of our niche website builder customers over to you for your video teardown or video due diligence service. I don't know if you want to just 2 minutes tell people what that is while we're on the topic of that.
Yeah, sure. So I do due diligence reviews. Essentially, you submit a form where you give me the site URL or the listing URL from different brokerages. I request access to Google Analytics, and I do a deep dive about 15-20 minutes of looking at essentially me going live through my processes of vetting that site. That includes the backlink profile, the niche itself, the domain history, Google Analytics. I put it through one of my proprietary dashboards that I've created that pulls in all the Google Analytics data and essentially organizes it in a way that matters for website flippers, because Google Analytics has hundreds of data points that's unnecessary. We just pull out the ones that are necessary, flag anything that needs to be double checked, and highlight all the good stuff so that you can kind of get at a glance this is a good site or not. The more green on that page, the better. Any red, marks means that you gotta do more due diligence. So, anyways, that whole package essentially it's great for beginners. Even I have a lot of people who are buying 7-figure sites that come to me on Empire Flippers Marketplace, $2-3 million, just to have another check, because my service is like $500 per due diligence. It's worth it if you're buying a site in the 2 million range. So.
Oh yeah, even people in the smaller ranges, I tell them it's worth it, especially if they're not sure themselves. Do you also give advice then on like valuation, or is it kind of you do? Okay.
Yes. So it's a multi-step process, what I explain, and at the end I just give my personal way to value that business based on my expertise. But yeah, I mean, at least, and I help them put together like what the minimum offer should be that they can start with, and the maximum they should pay based on the market.
Is it easy to cover that, like now, roughly what goes into that? Because that's one thing which I see people asking is how do they value sites all the time? Could we cover that now?
Yeah, it's a very simple equation. There's more nuances, but so your valuation is based on a last 6-month average of earnings. Now, how do you calculate earnings? So you take your revenues over the last 6 months, and that's for a stable site. If you have a seasonal site, maybe like an outdoor site or one of those sites that have 12 peaks and valleys, use the last 12-month average of your revenues. But a lot of people kind of make a mistake on calculating the actual profit. So there's two types of calculations for your operational costs and your growth costs. Do not factor in growth costs, because that's like in real estate, you renovate your kitchen, you're not going to put that into the cost. That's capital expenditures that you invested to increase the value of your site. So you only put in your operational costs, which includes your hosting fees, maybe your email platform fees, and I also factor in maybe 2 to 3 articles a month. That's the minimum required amount of content that, in my opinion, is needed to keep a site just churning along, right? And those are the minimum costs. It could range from like $100-ish to $200 costs. And it's dependent on the site and the niche. So that's the cost, and then you subtract that from the essential average revenues, and you get your last 6-month average. You multiply that by the monthly multiplier that a lot of people talk about. What multiple did you buy? All of that. That's that number, and it's on a monthly value. Whereas SaaS and e-commerce is on an annual value. In our industry, it's monthly. And I put the baseline of any content site today that has nothing special to it. Maybe it's just an Amazon site, nothing special, at a 35x multiple. That's the baseline, in my opinion. And then it goes up from there. If you have a very aged domain with a lot of high quality backlinks, add a few multipliers, maybe 2x higher. If you have a digital product or you have your own products, add another 2-3x. And it just goes from there. But it also goes down where if you've been hit by a Google penalty in the last 12 months, maybe the December 2020 update or the April 2020 update, I dropped that down by 5x or 30x is where I'm kind of starting there. And then, the adjustments happen there. And this is not, there's no rocket science here. Everybody will have their own opinion. You have your own. I talk to somebody else, they say, no, I'm wrong. But you're coming to me for my advice. I'm giving you at what I would buy it at. So and then you just do that math and get your valuation.
Awesome. Just out of curiosity there, because you mentioned it, would you consider buying sites that have been hit with updates? I know there's been a few updates in the last 12, 18 months. You still buying those sites?
Yes, and I buy them. When I see, for example, I reviewed a site on the Emotion Invest platform just yesterday, and that site was hit. It was built on an aged domain bought from auction. It peaked up in last November and got hit in the December update and went back down. Then it stabilized for the last 11 months ish at a pretty good average. So that buyer kind of said, what happened there? It's pretty obvious on Ahrefs. So I kind of explained to them, via the video that, hey, this is the update that happened, most likely because your site had a lot of product reviews and very little informational content. That update was pretty big on that. And then the April 2021 update was big on that as well. So it's most likely something like that. I just give my thoughts and I tell them, look, if you're a beginner, just be aware that this is the case. And that I have not personally seen a site really, recover back to its original peaks after, at least from the December big update. So just be aware of that. I kind of say that to them, and then give them my thoughts on, if you're gonna buy it, just be aware of that, and make sure you know how you're going to get the revenue up or the traffic up, and and I personally, yes, I do, but also at the same time, I buy only if I see a lot of easy wins for growth, such that that dip doesn't really matter to me. So anyways, in short, I make sure that the buyer knows what they're getting into and the downsides, so they can make their own decision.
That makes sense. I think that's actually one of our clients that you reviewed the site for yesterday.
Probably, yeah.
So I kind of agree with what you said there. When you fed it back, he's like, this is what Mushfiq said. I said, yeah. That's pretty much exactly right. Okay, awesome. So, I mean, that's kind of part of what you do, but the main part of what you do these days is run and grow and talk about the website flip, right? Which encompasses quite a few different things. But as an elevator pitch, an overall view of it, like, what is the website flip?
Yeah. So the website flip.com came about last April. So April 2020 is when I started, and the reason I started is I'm very active in the space, but I don't see anybody talking consistently about website flipping as an asset class, and so that kind of is a lot of people are doing flips, but there's not education around it. There's a lot of education, a lot of good education on how to get started building niche sites. Matt Diggity, Authority Hackers, you guys, a lot of good resources. And then on the other end, there's a lot of good resources that the brokers put out on how to position your site for sale, how to get the maximum price. But that's coming from the brokers, which is fine. But there's no unbiased middle resource that says, hey, now you know how to build a site. Maybe you built a few sites, sold them. Now you want to buy because you kind of see that it's an expedited process and it's easier just to buy if you know what you're doing. How do you take that and build a portfolio, do easy wins, grow them, and just build a business model on buying and selling sites? So there's a lot of gap between the starters and then the brokers. So I'm just trying to fill that gap with this blog and newsletter that I created.
Do you? I mean, it's a great resource, but as a fellow website flipper, I mean, it's getting harder to find decent quality sites. So, like, don't bring too many people into the space.
Yeah, I've gotten that a few times from veterans that you're educating too much. It's competitive, and I know it sucks. But at the same time, I think as veterans of the industry, eventually you realize that the very small deals, like the ones that are sub 10K that you can flip for 20K, is not really worth our time over, as you build a portfolio, you're leveling up, right? Mm-hmm. So I would rather educate the people who are operating sub 50K to understand how to build, grow, and sell so that we can take over and take those to 300K, right? There's just more deal flow at different levels. which is my goal. I mean, I don't know if that's happening, but that's the goal. That's what I tell people.
Yeah, no, I think it's noble. I applaud you for it. And I know the website flip is a paid membership area now, but you still put out a ton of information for free. And for almost 2 years, pretty much, you put out so much information for free. In fact, not just myself, but other people question, like, one, how do you have the time to make all of this great content? And two, why are you just giving it away for free? It's better than most courses out there.
Yeah. No, and it's building a brand. So first 2 years, I think about 20 months, everything was free. And now, I'm getting into more of a subscription type paid membership where you get access to case studies. And I actually share the URLs. That's something a lot of people don't do. I don't mind because I buy good sites that you really can't just copy. I'm not buying an Amazon affiliate, pure bestblenderreviews.com, right, which you can copy. I'm buying legit brands. So I'm happy to share the URL and it just gives you more data to play with that other people aren't sharing.
Yeah, no, for sure. Okay. And then also as part of the website flip, you have two kind of standalone products. So you've got like Easy Diligence IO, which is kind of what you just talked about, the platform, your proprietary data set where you plug in sites that you're looking to buy and it spits that out. I guess on that front, are there, like, what are the top pitfalls you see when you're evaluating sites that like beginners would probably not, like, they would miss? It might be easy to see with your dashboard, but if you were just trying to evaluate a site, like,
no, good question. Before that, just maybe take 10 seconds and explain Easy Diligence versus my consulting service of due diligence reviews, because they're a bit different. So there's a DIY approach, right, where people do it themselves and they want to do due diligence themselves. So easydiligence.io is perfect for that audience. It's a database of questions, about I think 46 questions that I go through when I buy a site, with examples and essentially what's very high priority that you must answer this question essentially to be a good deal. So it's just a framework. And then it's the dashboard itself where you can it's a dashboard where you can bring in your Google Analytics data for that site and just, as I said, just get all the metrics and everything that's relevant for website flippers. So you can buy that and just use that as your framework for buying sites. But there's a subset of people who may have that but just need my commentary as well on the deal, and that's where the consulting service comes in. So it's two. You can hire me or you can do it yourself. And so I've just kind of had both services. So to answer your question, I think it was, what are the common things common things in due diligence, right?
Yeah, like the common pitfalls, I guess, that maybe are not super obvious.
Yeah, I think first is the backlink profile. I think that's where a lot of people mess up. They buy sites with very sketchy backlink profiles. So it's very obvious to kind of catch clear PBN links or spammy links. For example, if you see Chinese, Russian, adult casino links, I mean, that's a no-brainer, right? Yeah. But I also look at deeper into looking at if there's too many guest posts, if there's too many niche edits compared to the overall link structure, I point that out and say, look, this seems very heavy on one side. So the owner really paid a lot of money to build links in a specific way. And I think the goal with the website is just to be very, very diversified in your link building strategy. So I look through the anchor text profile and look at how many anchors is this person targeting to a money article. It's very, let's say, weird. And think from the eyes of Google. Nobody really links to best Blender articles, right? I mean, that's not natural. Why would you link to that? If you, from a human perspective, you would link to an informational article or something. So it's very clear that if you have 20 or 30 of those, you paid for those from Google's perspective. And if your whole link profile is, majority dominated by those kind of links, I think that's not a long-term site. It's just going to die over time. So I look for branded anchor text because that's legitimate. That's very good. And I'm okay with having a few anchor texts that are exact match keywords like best blender, but not a majority. So that's one that I think a lot of people fail at. And now with age domains coming out, expired domains, I look into that. If a site's an age domain, we look through the archive to kind of see if the topical relevancy continued. If the site was about gardening and then you start talking about home, I just tell them no, go. I'm very strict on that. I've gotten some pushback from other people saying, but this, for example, there was a very expensive restaurant site on a broker. It was like 150,000 New York City restaurant, and the seller continued adding some food content, but started going into home, outdoor, like home goods, outdoor goods from a home perspective. And I pretty much just say no to those kind of deals, because I think making sure your topical relevancy is very tight knit is key here. So those kind of things I look at, and I think a lot of people fail at those.
Yeah, that's really important, I think, especially that last part. I know, like, we're going to talk a little bit about age domains in a second because it's a big part of our business now. But I think the funniest one I saw recently was the popcorn website that was on, I think it was sustainableshark.com or something. It used to be like a shark website, and somebody repurposed it into sustainable popcorn.
Yeah. I saw that one. I think they pulled that site. That was very, very interesting. Yeah, we had I'm active on Twitter, and I shared that on Twitter, and people just went crazy. Like, what the hell is going on here? So yeah, that's a good example of a seller who's just taking advantage of age domains for the wrong reasons, which we have to stop doing, because every good SEO technique that comes out, a legit SEO technique, it gets what is it called? Overused in the wrong ways, and we all lose out, right?
Yeah, for sure. Used and abused basically until Google then pays attention. Okay. So on to age domains then. Obviously, you're a big advocate for age domains. Where do you normally source them from? I know you mentioned Otis there. Are you primarily getting them from Otis, or are you active in the auctions yourself? Or
yeah, good question. I've bought a few from Otis. I've bought a few from GoDaddy Auctions directly, and I've also done other things where age domains. I categorize age domains as one, and then there's aged sites as well that are legit, like have been neglected. So I go through the search results, essentially finding good opportunities, maybe domains that have been around for 10 years that have good links, but the owner hasn't really kept it up to date, and I make them an offer. I think that's a safer bet because that site's already indexed, it's live, it didn't go through auctions, it didn't go through that process. So I'm willing to pay a premium for that. I also get the content, and maybe I can reuse some of the content as well. So yeah, it's been a different ways I source. I don't have one go-to place.
Yeah, I've been trying. I've done quite a bit of actual manual outreach this year in 2021 to buy sites like that. And there's one which, honestly, I would love to buy it, but I can't get hold of the owner. And I don't mind sharing. It's bear-tracker, like the animal, so beartracker.com. And the site looks like it's been around for years, 20 odd years, but it hasn't been updated since like 2008 or something ridiculous. So it looks horrible, but it's still getting a ton of traffic. The backlink profile is good. It's evergreen space. Have you ever come up against that where you can't get hold of an owner via the contact? Is there a secret way of?
No. I'm actively pursuing like 3 sites about website flipping that have been around for a long time, and these guys don't respond. I probably send them an email every few months, just no response. So no, I'm sorry, I don't have a secret here.
Cool, no worries. Okay, so once you've got your age domain, you mentioned like topical relevancy is important. How do you plan? Like, what's your plan of attack for when you start an age domain? How do you maintain that relevancy? How do you plan it all out?
Yeah, so So for example, I had a site I sold it in the acne niche, and I bought an age. I didn't actually find it. Somebody just pointed this out. Hey, this one looks like a perfect fit for you, and it was. It was a 12-year-old site about acne as well, blog, and I bought that. And so, that's a good topical match here. Now, not a good topical match for an acne site, a dedicated acne site that I own, would be if I found a beauty site, just generic beauty type site that had a few articles about acne, but the other articles about random topics. I would never do that. I would never merge that or even think about it, but I've seen other people do that. I just personally would never do that. So it really has to be perfect match. Otherwise, I just don't take the risk.
Okay. So you had the acne site and then you found an age domain and merged it into it?
Yeah, I redirected the age domain into what I call a buffer page. And a buffer page is essentially like a press release page where I just, say, hey, my site acquired that domain. Here's why we did it. This is the reasons why, and here is some relevant content. I'm just putting internal links there to pass that link juice, right? And that's the home page of the age domain going to that buffer page on my main site. And that, protects my main domain in case that age domain just didn't work out or something and I lose traffic. I can just remove that buffer page and essentially hope I get my traffic back in the worst case. However, there were some perfectly matching content. Like one of them was, does chocolate cause acne? And I actually had an article on that on my site. Does chocolate cause acne? And so I did a 1-to-1 301 redirect to that, because that doesn't get better than that. Then the age domain also had an article that had good backlinks about acne statistics, right? So I had my writers put one together on my site, published that, and then redirected that. So I'm there's a shortcut way to do this where you do a wildcard redirect every single page on the age domain to the home page or the category page or the buffer page. I don't do that. I go through every single link and figure out if there's a place for it. And if there isn't, it goes to the buffer page. If there is, it goes to that page. And then if there's something like really irrelevant, let's say out of 100 links, 2 or 3 just don't make sense, they go to a 404 page. So essentially just say, hey, this doesn't exist. So I'm very, very detailed on that, and just because I don't want to take any risks.
That's interesting. And this is just a technical question because we do something very similar. And on that buffer page, we'd have like a skyscraper piece, usually very generic, but where we can internally link through to the other pieces. But somebody asked me a question, and we've always set up those redirects with Cloudflare. And they said, is there any benefit? And the honest answer is I don't know. We've always done it. Do you use Cloudflare, or are you doing it a different way?
I set up on the age domain, I set up a fresh WordPress site and use a redirection plugin.
Okay. Yeah, no, that's easy. Well, I guess, yeah. If you're going to do page to page, that's a lot easier. With Cloudflare, you have to pay for more than 3 pages.
And the reason is that, because I'm in the website flipping game and I sell sites, it's much easier to hand over the main site and then also the WordPress install on the age domain where they can log in and see visually all the redirects and just it's proof and they can edit it. Otherwise, other ways, like I know a lot of people use the HT access file as well. Cloudflare, I have never done Cloudflare. I've done the HT access. So that's more technical and requires a lot of hand holding. And so I've just seen that setting up a fresh install just works perfect.
Yeah, no, that's good. Okay, awesome. I generally didn't know how to answer it when you asked. I said we've always done it that way. I don't know any pros and cons or not, so that's good to know.
They all work at the end of the day. I don't think it matters.
Okay. I was presenting at a Black Hat conference a couple of weeks back, and I was presenting on some of the interesting ways people are using expired domains, and I wondered if you'd ever tried anything interesting, or if you've seen anything apart from obvious where someone's taken a domain and writing something non-relevant. But have you got any interesting stories to share about like crazy things you've seen?
I wish, honestly, no. I haven't been part of the Black Hat for a while, so I wouldn't be able to share anything. I'm not sure.
Cool. No, that's good. Well, one which I saw, which I talked about, was a site that had been like an official government body talking about like survival. So how to read a compass, how to survive if you fell in cold water, that kind of thing. And somebody had resurrected the site, and they'd taken all that old content and repurposed it, made it the same, published it, and it was fine. But on the homepage, in the menu bar at the top, there was a load of links to things like testosterone or those kind of shady products. And I thought, oh, this is interesting. And it got even more interesting because when you clicked on one of those links from the menu, then you were redirected to a /DE folder, so like a German section of the site. And then all of that content around those products was in German. And when you put the site into Ahrefs, in the US, it's still ranking very well for how to read a compass and how to survive if you fall in cold water. But then in Germany, it's ranking very well for like male testosterone and all those kinds of crazy things. I'll send you the URL afterwards so you can. It's still ongoing. It's only been live for about 3 or 4 months, so it's one of those ones you can watch it month by month to see what's going on.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. These black hat people will figure out everything, right?
Yeah. And one question which I'd like to get your input on as well is as a website investor, are you personally put off, or do you think people are put off by buying to websites that have been built on expired domains if they've been done correctly? Because some people say like, oh, it's a factor they take into consideration. I don't, but I want to get your take on that.
I don't. One of the most successful sites that I have in my portfolio right now was built on a age domain that was bought from auction, right? So that's making 15,000, and it's been making close to 10,000 average for the last 12 months. And it's been hit by updates, but it's always recovered. I have no issues with it. It comes down to the fact that, again, I think it's really just, is the domain healthy? Does it get indexed? Is it topically relevant? And all of those things that we talked about. If those are all checked, then I'm good.
Awesome. No, it's good to get a sounding board on that. I agree 100%. Okay. So I want to ask you some kind of finger in the air questions now about like where you think the industry is going. And the first one I want to touch on is multiples. You kind of touched on there, like multiples have changed dramatically, and you only have to look on Investors Club to see some multiples in the 50 plus range now. Do you think this is sustainable? Like, is this going to keep on going up? Is it going to plateau? And it's just your best guess, really.
Yeah. As a seller, I would love it to go up, but as a buyer, I would love it to stay down. I'm in both parties here. And the reason for that is everything else in the real world is expensive, so people are flocking to digital assets. Is it sustainable or not? Honestly, I used to buy sites at 15x. I remember the 20 to 25x stays pretty good. And all of a sudden in the last 2 years, I feel like it jumped from like 25, 30 to 35, 40, 50s, right? And I think a 35, 36x, which is 3 years return, I think that takes into effect all the risks on a good site. I think anything higher than that, 4 or 5 year return, I just don't think that's sustainable from what I have seen with niche sites. Now, I don't know. It's happening. That's my opinion.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting. Do you think it's going to go much higher?
Oh yeah. It's just crazy amount. With NerdWallet doing an IPO, more people are understanding that, hey, content has more value than we thought. Email lists have more value. Communities, groups have more value. So I think it's just after the IPO and, with NerdWallet, I think things are getting just going to get higher and higher. But I think if you're building something like NerdWallet, paying, those crazy multiples, 60, 50, 60x makes sense. But for an Amazon affiliate site, I would never pay more than a 35x for it. So it's got to have different revenue sources, different traffic sources, good niche with good potential. And those kind of things, I am willing to pay higher multiples for.
Yeah, it's interesting you mentioned NerdWallet and their IPO there, because I pulled out some stats on Future PLC, which is they're like an aggregator now of websites. And I think there's a big opportunity for people like us. If you build a brand and you diversify and build something of value, they would acquire you or potentially acquire you for way more than our traditional mindset of 20, 30, 40x. And some of the data I pulled up was insane. So like Future PLC, they own the brands of things like Laptop Mag and Golf Monthly, Country Homes and Designs. And they're listed on they're a publicly listed company. And their profit for September 21 for the year was 193 million just from content. Well, a big chunk of it was from display revenue on their content site portfolio.
Yeah, no, 100%. I did a study. It's on my site. It's free. You can read about the 35 media companies analyzed, and Future is one of them. So yeah, I've studied them all, and what they're doing, and what we are doing, it's pretty similar. But I think what they're doing is they're actually investing a lot more money into quality content, experts, really nicely designed sites. So they're taking this as a business, a legit business, with the same principles that we follow as niche website builders. It's just, I think when we do it, we cut costs. We try to keep costs down. I mean, it makes sense if you're bootstrapping and just getting started. But once you have got traction and you see that this site is producing well, it's getting traffic, I think it really makes sense to kind of double down, invest in good design, get good writers on board, and think of it like you're doing a media company rather than just a random niche site. So I think it's just a mindset change. I don't think they're doing anything special or have any extra expertise than we do.
No, and I guess the good benchmark to just back that up, I think I saw their profit margin was around 15%. So on those kind of revenue, they're spending so many millions each year reinvesting back into running them and improving and buying. So whereas we sell a site and 90% profit.
I ran the numbers. I'm on one site makes 5,000 on 97%. The other one is 15,000. Biggest one is 98%. So yeah. And I'm a culprit, right? I could just double down and really build it out, but I'm not immune to being in the bootstrap mindset. Just save money, right? So
Awesome. I'm gonna ask you a dangerous question now, because obviously we own a content agency, but I think one of the big kind of topics for the future is AI content. I just want to get your opinion. I have my own on it right now, but I want to hear if you've tried it, what your thoughts are. Can Google tell if it's AI content? All those kinds of things.
Yeah, it's a dangerous question all over. It's a very some people love it, some don't. So I remember the article spinning days. I don't know if you did use those software where you would put things in curly braces and get 100 copies of the same article. And I used to do that back in the day. So that's probably my most black hat thing I did. Nowadays, AI is smarter. Obviously, it's not article spinning. It's much smarter. So what I've used Jarvis and Conversion AI and those guys, just to see if I can put together a blog post and play around with it. It's not very good with data and sources, so it just puts out some random numbers. So obviously, as the user, you have to double check everything. But it's really good for writer's block. I think if you're writing your content and you just want some, put some ideas down and just get some content out there, so you can then change it up and customize it to your needs and put something out there that's it's much quicker. I think when I'm writing content for my website Flip, sometimes I have writer's block and I have an idea, but I just need a paragraph because I don't know what's going on. I use it to just get an idea and then customize it. So I think it helps in that sense. It just saves you time. Now, I analyzed a site that and it's part of my membership, but it's a site that's about games, and they have 100 articles posted a day, pure AI content, and that site is exponentially growing, right? So, and I've read the content. Some of it's like, oh my god, you're talking about a random topic within this topic. It makes no sense. But again, I don't think Google is smart enough to catch it yet. Again, this is one of those things that people are taking advantage of when it can be used for good purposes, and it's just going to get penalized one day in the future. So there is a space for it, but I just don't think you should have a fully AI generated, 100% generated site. Now, sorry, I'm talking a lot, just one more statement here. I think it's very good if, for example, I have a site with 700 articles in the outdoor niche, right? I added 100 articles a month for like 4 or 5 months. Now, if you're at that level, let's say more than 20, 30 articles a month consistently, I think it's okay to sprinkle in 3 to 4 AI written content and just test and see. I think it's all about diversity, right? If you have a lot of content, you can add in a few. It's gonna just diversify within that portfolio itself of content. It's just when it gets too much, just like we talked about backlinks, too many guest posts is an issue, right? But a few is okay. So I think in that sense, for people who are producing a lot of content, you can supplement.
When you say supplement, you mean use it and then edit, right? Because I've tried a couple of tools, and what it spits out initially is just horrible sometimes. Makes no sense.
Yeah, I think again, obviously you have to edit it. You have to get it through. And I've kind of done the math back of the envelope, and if you're doing, putting out the content, training somebody to do it, maybe a VA, doing the keyword research, and then editing it, and then putting it on the site, it comes out to hiring a writer at like the 5-cent range per word. So, I mean, if you can get the economies of scale there, it makes sense. But I think for most people, it's a supplementary tool that can help you get ideas. But I don't think on a math level, it really works out for a lot of people.
Yeah, no, for sure. As an investor as well, would you be comfortable buying a site that has the majority of its content AI generated, even if it's working exponentially like the site you mentioned?
No, I would never. If I can tell, right? I don't know if I could always tell. So, but no, I would. If I caught it, I would never buy it. Now, it's a conversation. If it's a few articles out of the thousands, sure, I'm okay with that. Maybe a 10% AI to non-AI ratio, but not a dominated site with the AI content.
No, awesome. That's good. That's good thoughts. Okay. Well, I guess one other thing that I want to cover, which is quite exciting, you kind of alluded to it at the start, is that you've got a course coming out soon, right? That teaches people how to, that middle piece part of the puzzle that's missing. Tell us about that. What's it going to cover? When's it coming out? Like, if you know pricing or anything like that yet?
Yeah, I'm working on it as we speak. I hope to make it as detailed as possible. So it will cover everything from a framework that I've kind of developed on the life cycle of a website flip from step A to step Z, and the high level of what's involved, which is like finding a site to buy, doing a due diligence, evaluating it, acquiring it, positioning it for growth, positioning it for sale, and then selling it, right? The full life cycle. And then, there's going to be maybe 60, 70 videos of just me walking through different examples and, slides covering those topics. Now, it's not going, and I just caveats, a lot of people ask, will you explain how to grow a site? No, I'm not going to show you, how to exactly grow a site, because that's why Easy Wins exists, which is my other product, a database of growth tactics. And that's why a lot of other bloggers are also talking about how to grow a site with keyword research, for example. So I'm not replicating anything that's out there already. The Authority Hackers folks, those guys do a very good job of really teaching people how to do keyword research or that. So I don't do any of that. I'm just going over the very high level of really it's just due diligence, valuation, and positioning and the tactics that's involved in doing all of that at a high level.
Yeah. For to become a business as well, right? So not just as a one-off, or maybe a one-off project, but mainly for as a proper income. So do you think it'll be out in time for Black Friday, maybe? Or
yes, I am working hard. I think I would do a launch to my newsletter with. It's November 3rd right now, so probably mid-November, and then a Black Friday sale for others. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I'm excited to have a little look at that when it comes out. I think it's going to be awesome. If it's anything like your other content, I mean, it's just going to be jam-packed full of information. So,
trying my best.
Is there anything else you think you wanted to cover based on the topics that we've talked about today?
Oh, I think it was a good cover. We covered everything.
We did do a bit of everything, didn't we?
Yeah, it's good.
I found it really hard to pick one topic to talk to you about because you've just got such a wealth of knowledge across pretty much everything. I was like, I'll just try and fit in as much as I can.
For sure. Yeah, that was great.
Awesome. All right. Well, Mushfiq, I really appreciate your time and thank you very much for joining me today. If people want to reach out to you, it's obviously the website flip.com and we'll put some links in there. Is that the best place to get you or? Yeah,
that's the best place. There's contact forums you can reach out. I'm active on Facebook as well. You'll see me commenting random places, and then Twitter as well at the website Flip. So yeah, those are the three places.
Awesome. All right. Mushfiq, it's been great. Thank you very much. Appreciate your time.
Thank you so much, Adam.
Speak soon.
Thanks again for tuning in, and I hope you enjoyed the show. If you're listening to the podcast version of this episode, please subscribe on iTunes or wherever you listen to your podcasts. Please rate and review, as this will allow us to grow our audience and create more shows like this one. If you're watching on YouTube, please subscribe to the channel and click on the bell to be the first to know about any new episodes that we release. Until the next episode, goodbye.